This film became the long-awaited adaptation of the popular 1960s TV series and was planned as Tom Cruise's big producing debut. The movie not only met, but exceeded all expectations, launching one of the most successful media franchises in history, which continues to amaze audiences nearly 30 years later. Movies Inside Out presents Mission Impossible is a spy action film by Brian De Palma, released in 1996, which gave Tom Cruise the most iconic role of his career. Which scene did the director come up with after principal photography has already wrapped? How did ordinary coins help Cruise perform an iconic stunt? Why did all the actors from the original series refuse to reprise their roles? And how did they react to the movie? You'll find out all these and more in our new video. Ready? Let's begin! The creation story. The story of Mission Impossible began in 1966, when Bruce Geller's TV series of the same name premiered. The show not only became a favorite among American viewers and stayed on the air for nearly 7 years, but also earned critical acclaim and numerous prestigious awards. In 1986, Paramount Studios, which held the rights to the series, once again attempted to create a film adaptation of the successful project. However, the 1988 Writers Guild strike halted work on the movie, and instead of a feature film, Paramount decided to release 2 more seasons of the show, which served as both remake and a continuation of the original series. Despite the difficulties launching a film adaptation, the studio finally got lucky in 1992, when one of Hollywood's most in-demand actors, Tom Cruise, and producer Paula Wagner founded the production company Cruise Wagner Productions. Cruise was considering what project should be the company's debut, and remembered how much he loved Mission Impossible as a child. Believing this spy story could make a great blockbuster, he contacted Paramount and convinced them to allocate a budget of around $40 to $50 million.
I hope this doesn't preclude a meeting in private.
Not as long as you tell me where the money is.
The mere possibility is worth $10 million.
Initially, the director's chair was supposed to go to Die Hard creator John McTiernan, but for unknown reasons, he wasn't able to join the project. The producer then turned to Sidney Pollack, known for Tootsie, and Cruise and Wagner even began developing the story with him. However, a few months later, at work dinner, Cruise met Brian De Palma, the director behind such cult films as Carrie, Scarface, and The Untouchables. After revisiting some of De Palma's best movies, Cruise realized that De Palma was the one who had to direct his film. According to the director, he agreed to take one of the project only because he badly needed a commercial hit at the time. The first drafts of the script weren't particularly successful, so De Palma invited talented writers Steven Zaillian, David Kapp, and Robert Towne, who already had several high-profile projects under their belts, and tasked them with keeping the audience surprised throughout the movie. As they reworked the original script, the writers tried to preserve the core elements of the story, but kept encountering problems with plot development, dialogue, and action scenes. In fact, some scenes were still being rewritten by Towne between takes on set. Paramount management wanted to keep the film's budget within $50 million, but Tom Cruise pushed for a large-scale, visually impressive action movie.
The movie's gonna be great. No, I'm not worried about that right now. I'm worried about telling Ari that we need more money to finish the movie.
As a result, the budget soon increased to $60 million and eventually ballooned to $80 million. Casting. It's no surprise that the lead role of Agent Ethan Hunt went to Tom Cruise, the driving force behind the film adaptation.
Kittredge, you've never seen me very upset.
However, according to some sources, other Hollywood stars were also considered for the part. For example, George Clooney was offered the role of Hunt, but chose to star in the romantic drama One Fine Day, a role Cruise had also auditioned for.
That's my cat.
Other actors considered for Hunt included Bruce Willis, John Travolta, Nicolas Cage, Ralph Fiennes, Mel Gibson, and Jean-Claude Van Damme. The role of Jim Phelps was offered to Peter Graves, who had portrayed him in the original series. However, Graves declined when he learned that his character would turn traitor and be killed at the end of the film. Interestingly, Phelps is the only character from the original show who appears in the movie. The role was offered to Al Pacino, Michael Douglas, and Robert Redford, before producers finally chose Jon Voight.
We photograph Golitsyn stealing the knock list, follow him to his buyer. Apprehend both of them.
They felt that audiences would never suspect him of being the villain. Claire Phelps was played by French actress Emmanuelle Béart, known for A Couch in New York and 8 Women.
Ethan, it's okay. Just calm down. It's Claire.
But De Palma had initially considered other French actresses for the role, Juliette Binoche and Geneviève Bujold. The role of former agent Franz Krieger went to Jean Reno.
Try any sleight of hand with my money, I'll cut your throat.
And a small part as undercover spy Sarah Davies was given to British actress Kristen Scott Thomas.
There's a marine guard and video surveillance and there's places. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
That same year, Kristen starred in The English Patient, a role that earned her an Oscar nomination. Speaking of a role in Mission Impossible, she once said, "I die on page 25, but I die in Tom Cruise's arms, so it was worth it." Interestingly, Béart, Scott Thomas, and Renault also voiced their characters for the French release of the film. The role of hacker Luther Stickle went to Ving Rhames, who had gained recognition for playing Marcel Wallace in Pulp Fiction.
Being off the disavowed list.
Hey, I'm the flavor of the month.
Producers felt Rhames didn't look like a hacker at all, which is exactly why they cast him. Vanessa Redgrave, a recipient of the acting Triple Crown, Oscar, Emmy, and Tony,
and the winner is Vanessa Redgrave and Julia,
was cast as Max, a role originally written for a man.
Who are you and what are you doing here?
Her partners were played by Czech actor Karel Debris and German actor Andrzej Wasniewski, known for portraying Gruber's bodyguard in Die Hard. The role of surveillance agent Hanna Williams went to Soviet and Lithuanian actress Ingeborga Dapkonaitė. Her character only has 2 lines in the entire film.
Operation of the interior. Find yourself a perch and stay on him.
No problem.
The CIA director Eugene Kittredge was played by Canadian actor of Polish descent Henry Czerny, who made his Hollywood debut in 1994's Clear and Present Danger.
I want him manning a radar tower in Alaska by the end of the day. Just mail him his clothes.
Emilio Estevez played hacker Jack Harmon, though his name didn't appear in the credits. Interestingly, in 1988, Tom Cruise had a small, uncredited role in Young Guns, where Estevez played the lead. The role of Alexander Golitsyn went to Romanian actor Marcel Iuras, who later played a villain in The Peacemaker alongside George Clooney. Incidentally, Iuras's character was named after Soviet KGB director Anatoly Golitsyn. According to Martin Landau, who played Rolling Hand in the TV show, the team that gets wiped out at the beginning of the movie was originally intended to include cast members from the original series. Nearly all of them criticized the idea and refused to participate. Only Greg Morris agreed, but he later dropped out due to his feelings about the Phelps character. The filming process. Filming for Mission Impossible took place from March to August 1995. Most of the scenes were shot in Prague and at England's Pinewood Studios, but some sequences were also filmed in London, Scotland, and the United States. Interestingly, Mission Impossible was one of the first Hollywood productions set in modern-day Prague, showcasing its major landmarks. The idea to film in the Czech Republic came from the Brian De Palma himself. The exterior of the embassy was represented by the Liechtenstein Palace, while its lavish interiors were shot at the National Museum in Prague, which was later used in Casino Royale and From Hell. The real CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia, was used for exterior shots, but interior scenes were filmed elsewhere, at London's County Hall. Max's headquarters were filmed at the now-closed Hotel Europa, and Phelps fakes his death by plunging from the Charles Bridge into the Vltava River. The helipad near Tower Bridge, where Kittredge lands, didn't actually exist and was built specifically for the film in a public park. Most of the action scenes were conceived by De Palma before a full script existed, but the aquarium restaurant sequence was Tom Cruise's idea. Each tank held 16 tons of water, and the crew was worried about the explosion scattering too much debris. Initially, De Palma planned to shoot the scene with a stunt double, but it looked unconvincing. So he asked Cruise to do it himself, despite the risk of injury or drowning. The scene was filmed in two locations. The tank explosion and Ethan's leap through the window were shot at Paramount Studios, while the part where he runs out into the street with water chasing behind was filmed at Prague's Old Town Square. To capture the old world atmosphere, cinematographer Steven Burum and his team spent about 2 weeks preparing the Vltava riverbanks. Hundreds of lights connected to 11 generators were used to achieve the perfect lighting. Burum's results were so stunning that many Czech photographers came to the city just to capture the beautiful nighttime cityscape. Reza Badiye, director of many episodes of the original series, was invited by Paramount to visit the film set as a consultant. However, Brian De Palma approached him and admitted that although he admired the show, his movie would be completely different. He explained that having them both on set would be uncomfortable due to differing visions for the project. Badiye thanked him for the honesty and didn't return. Tom Cruise put himself at risk not just for the aquarium scene. He performed almost all these stunts without doubles. While filming the iconic scene where Cruise dangles inches above the floor, his head kept hitting the ground. After several takes, he decided to put British pound coins in his shoes to help maintain balance. Though the scene looked simple, it was the most physically challenging one for him.
Relax, Luther. It's much worse than you think.
The film's main action sequence is the final showdown between Ethan and Jim. A combination of practical and computer effects made the sequence long and complex to produce, requiring great effort from both the actors and the crew. De Palma was inspired by action films like Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and Terminator 2: Judgment Day. The chase scenes with Nazis and the pursuit of John Connor gave him insight into how to structure a great action scene. By the way, we already have videos about the making of those classics on our channel. Tom Cruise originally wanted to shoot the climactic sequence on the roof of a French TGV train, but the train company initially refused.
And you thought, if you simply showed up, I might give it to you.
De Palma began looking for alternate tracks, but Cruise didn't give up. He arranged a lunch with TGV executives and eventually convinced them to allow filming. Cruise also insisted that the wind blowing on him be powerful enough to realistically blow him off the train. Finding a machine capable of producing such force was difficult, but he remembered the wind simulator he had used during parachute training. The crew tracked down the only one in Europe and bought it for the film. The machine produced wind speeds of up to 225 kilometers per hour, enough to realistically distort Cruise's face. Interestingly, Cruise initially opposed the helicopter stunt, thinking it would make the movie too unrealistic. But once he started working on it, he changed his mind. In fact, for every subsequent film in the franchise, Cruise has come up with even more dangerous and spectacular stunts. The exterior shot of the train and helicopter were filmed in Glasgow, but most of the sequence was created over 6 weeks on the Pinewood Studios soundstage using blue screens. Cruise and Voight acted atop full-size train car models while the wind machine simulated high-speed motion. Then, Industrial Light and Magic took over for post-production. While filmmakers in the 1990s increasingly relied on CGI, it rarely yielded satisfying results. That's why ILM visual effects supervisor John Knoll worked to seamlessly blend CGI with live action and miniature models. All the tunnel action was shot using detailed miniatures of the train and a helicopter rigged with explosive, later enhanced with digital effects. Very soon, we'll tell you how and why the film's opening scene changed, and whose advice prompted De Palma to bring the crew back to set. Stay with us. Much more is ahead. Besides key story elements, Mission Impossible borrowed the original TV show's musical theme by Lalo Schifrin. To create a modern version, U2 members Larry Mullen and Adam Clayton were brought in. Like Cruise, they were fans of the original show and were initially afraid of ruining the iconic theme. But under the influence of European club music, they created 2 versions and several remixes, released as a separate album. The original score was initially composed by Alan Silvestri, known for Back to the Future, which we've also covered on our channel. Reportedly, Silvestri completed around 20 minutes of music before Cruise decided it wasn't the right fit. During post-production, Cruise hired Danny Elfman, Tim Burton's regular composer. Silvestri later revoked the unused material for the film Eraser. Interestingly, the first Mission Impossible is the only film in the franchise in which Ethan never fires a gun. It's also the only installment where Hunt's team includes 3 women. Later films featured 1 or none. Additionally, only in the first film were the iconic mask removal scenes created entirely using practical effects.
Get rid of that scum.
Movie mistakes and errors. Now let's take a look at the most interesting bloopers and mistakes in Mission Impossible. The kind that most viewers probably never noticed. Maybe you spotted some inconsistencies yourself? Let us know in the comments and let's begin. Expanding space. Ethan reaches out to catch a drop of sweat falling from his head, yet there are only a few centimeters between him and the floor, making it impossible to catch the drop the way it's shown in the close-up. The magical collar. When Ethan removes his mask, the collar of his shirt appears way too loose, but just a few seconds later, it fits snugly around his neck. Timeline confusion. In Prague, Ethan walks past the car where Clear is seated twice. Before Don Lowe enters the vault, the floor turns black, but when shown from the hallway, it's still white. Although in the next overhead shot, the floor has indeed become black. When Kittredge and his assistant get out of the helicopter in London, they slam the door shut. But in the next shot, the door is open again. The traveling tracker. Inside the CIA building, Clear attaches a tracking device to the edge of Don Lowe's left shoulder. Later, when he reaches toward the sink, the tracker is suddenly in the center of his back. Tech wonders. Hunt sends an email to a domain that contains both a colon and a space, which are technically not allowed in an email address. Then, while he's hanging upside down inside the CIA vault, Luther receives a video feed from his glasses as if it were filmed from an upright angle. A very prepared team. If you look closely, you can see that the glass through which the waiter crashes when Ethan blows up the aquarium was pre-broken for ease of filming. Agents and their amazing skills. Ethan steals and breaks a single light bulb in the corridor, but somehow ends up scattering far more shards than one bulb could contain. Also, Hunt doesn't cast any reflection on the shiny floor surface. And when he nearly falls to the ground, the air pressure from his body alone should have triggered the ultra-sensitive alarm system. Those are the little slip-ups we found in the film. Still, they don't take away from the viewing experience, do they? Deleted scenes and behind the scenes of the film. Mission Impossible opens with IMF team completing an operation in Kyiv, after which Phelps briefs them on the new assignment in Prague and brings them up to speed. But originally, this scene wasn't part of the film. The initial cut began with a jealousy scene involving Voight, Bayard, and Cruz, followed immediately by the mission sequence.
Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife.
According to Brian De Palma, he showed an early version of the film to his friend George Lucas, who was puzzled and said that the opening didn't fit the style of a spy thriller. He insisted the film needed a proper briefing scene with the mission instructions. Lucas's feedback convinced De Palma to cut the melodramatic sequence and bring the cast back to shoot a new intro. The deleted scene has never been released publicly, but you can catch glimpses of it in the trailer and during the opening credits. Unfortunately, no other bonus material from the film was ever officially released, but we can still take a peek behind the scenes of Mission Impossible through a small selection of on-set production photos. Worldwide recognition. The film was originally slated for release in December 1995. But due to reshoots, location issues, and the complexity of the visual effects, the release was postponed. Mission Impossible eventually premiered on May 22, 1996, simultaneously on 3,012 screens. It became the first film in the US history to be shown in more than 3,000 theaters and broke the record previously set by Terminator 2 for the best Wednesday opening. The film held the #1 box office position for 2 weeks until it was overtaken by The Rock. It grossed over $180 million in the US and nearly $277 million internationally, with the total box office take exceeding $457 million. Interestingly, Tom Cruise was so confident in the success of Mission Impossible that he waived his usual $20 million fee in exchange for a percentage of the box office profits, a move that earned him over $70 million. Jean Reno later admitted that working with Tom Cruise wasn't very pleasant, as Cruise reportedly treated him and other members of the crew dismissively. Director Brian De Palma also had a difficult time, frequently clashing with Cruise over creative differences. According to rumors, one such argument led De Palma to cancel all scheduled interviews with the media just before the film's release. However, it's also possible his absence from the press circuit was due to his ongoing divorce at the time. Critics greeted Mission Impossible with mixed reviews. While they praised its thrilling action scenes, they also criticized the overly complicated plot and lack of originality. Peter Graves and Martin Landau, both veterans of the original series, were disappointed with the film. Greg Morris reportedly disliked it so much he walked out of the theater midway through. Longtime fans of the Mission Impossible TV show also objected to the portrayal of Jim Phelps as a traitor and disapproved of the film's heavy focus on a single character rather than a team dynamic. Although Mission Impossible was not a major award season player, it still received some notable recognition. MTV Movie Awards nominated the film for a Best Action Sequence for the train scene. The Saturn Awards nominated it for Best Action Adventure Thriller Film, and editor Paul Hirsch earned a Satellite Award nomination. On the flip side, the movie was also nominated for Golden Raspberry. Despite the mixed reviews, the film did take home a few awards. Composer Danny Elfman received a BMI Film and TV Award, and Cruise and producing partner Paula Wagner were named Most Promising Producers by the Producers Guild of America. In Germany, the film's promotion faced obstacles due to opposition from the German government toward the Church of Scientology, of which Cruise is a member. Scientologists believe humans are spiritual beings capable of living many lifetimes. Authorities and advocacy groups called for a boycott of the movie, but Mission Impossible still enjoyed massive success at the German box office and was awarded the Golden Screen for being the most successful foreign film of the year. Apple not only provided computers for the film, but also launched a $15 million promotional campaign that included a video game, printed materials, TV spots, and in-theater events. The film also spawned a comic prequel, a novelization, and several video games. The iconic vault scene, in which Cruise's character dangles from the ceiling, became legendary and was later parodied in Shrek 2. In 2017, the costume Cruise wore during that scene was auctioned off for £6,000. The incredible success of Mission Impossible naturally encouraged the producers to expand the spy franchise. As of now, 7 sequels have been released. Remarkably, each one received better reviews than the original. Director Christopher McQuarrie, who helmed Rogue Nation in 2015, continues to lead the series. Although the 7th installment, Dag Reckoning, was a box office disappointment in 2023 due to fierce competition from the Barbenheimer craze. The 8th film, Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, is already complete and scheduled for release on May 21, 2025. Following the success of Mission Impossible, Tom Cruise continued to produce both his own films and projects starring other actors, earning multiple Oscar nominations and maintaining his status as a blockbuster icon. Jon Voight continues to appear in prominent supporting roles in both film and television. For Emmanuelle Béart, Mission Impossible was her only major international project, although she remained active in French cinema. The rest of the cast, including Jean Reno, Christine, Scott Thomas, and Vanessa Redgrave, continued to work in various film and TV projects. Ingeborg Dapkūnaitė, who had primarily worked in Russia, condemned the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine and relocated to Brussels. And what's your favorite Mission Impossible movie in the franchise? Let us know in the comments.